Welcome back. Today we're going to be having a look at lists in Python and their comparison to strings, and then we'll have a look at some things that you can only use with lists and not strings. I'm sure you will remember that string is not that, but some text, and one way to think of text is as a list of letters or characters or strings. And in fact, treating lists and strings in a similar way is really useful as well. So we'll just jump straight in. I'm using the default Python editor just because it's a bit more colourful than the other one and you get a bit more response, because the other one, if I were to use it in the terminal, would just be black and white. So we'll start by defining a string. We'll say string1 is equal to 4. Well, this is kind of simple, so I'm just going to break it up into strings. So we've got b plus a plus, and then instead of doing L, I'll do L times 2. And then we see string 1 is 4. And then do the same with list 1. That's going to be equal to, and then a series of lists, B plus A plus 2 times L. And then we can see list 1 as well. And so they're virtually the same. And one thing we might want to do is change the values. So instead I'll set the second letter of string 1. So I have to use index 1 because you subtract 1. So that's equal to E. And unfortunately you can't do that because strings don't allow you to assign items in this way. If we wanted to change it, we'd have to rewrite the entire string. However, if with the list, we can say the second item of list 1 is equal to an E, and it will change it back. Okay, but now I'm going to change them back. So we've got list 1 is equal to, and I can do it the other way. And again, I can say string 1 is equal to 4. And what if instead we want to combine strings? So we want to make string 1 longer. So we can set it equal to string 1. Then we also want to add maybe et on the end. And now we can see string 1 is equal to ballet. We'll do the same with list 1. So it'll be equal to list 1 plus, and then our other list. And then list 1 is equal to ballet. And we can still change stuff. So with list 1, we can set the second item to an I, and then the first item to an F, and we get list 1 is now a fillet. But with our string we can't do that, so we just have to say string 1 is equal to fillet. And there are some things that you can do with lists that you can't do with strings, and they're these list methods, and there are quite a lot, but I've taken out what I think are the 7 most basic ones. So you can insert stuff, you can append stuff, so putting stuff on the end, you can remove stuff, pop stuff, which is where you take out an element, you can clear the list, you can copy it, and you can extend it. So I guess we'll start by using pop. So we'll take our list 1 and then dot, and then we'll pop. And you see it gives us T. And so what it's done is it's taken the last item of the list and removed it and returned it. So we can now see that list 1 is equal to fill. And then we can also use the remove. So if we remove, however this time it's asking for a value, so we can't put in just list1.remove because that doesn't make sense. What we can do is we can remove the E, and so now it's just fill. But one difference between the remove and the pop is that when we used the pop we got this T back, but now that we've used remove, we don't get anything back. Also with pop, you can specify an index and say list1.pop and then 0, so we're going to remove the first thing and it gives us that back, but now I can see list1 is ill. And then maybe we want to insert something into our list, so we can use insert and we'll say list1.insert, and maybe we want to insert at the beginning, so I'll put a 0, and then maybe we want to set a B, so it transforms from ill to Bill, and now we see that list1 is Bill. And another thing that happens with lists is we're going to set list2 equal to list1 to try and demonstrate this. So if we want list1, we get Bill, list2, we get Bill. So now I'm going to update list1 and say that the first element is equal to an M, and I'm going to see list1 is equal to mil, and list2 is also equal to mil, because those two lists are the same thing. So what if we don't want this to happen? So we can create list3, and that's going to be equal to list2.copy. And so now I'll change list2 and set the last item, so I can use -1 equal to an E. So you see list1 is mile, list2 is mile, but list3 is still mil because it's a copy. We copied the values rather than assigning them the same list. And you can get loads of bugs in your programs where you make one list the same as another, change the first list and don't remember that you've changed the second list. So working still with list1, we know this is also going to update list2. So I'm going to edit list3 and I'll make the first value equal to a T. So see list3 will have updated, and we know that list1 and list2 won't have updated. And then I will create another list, list4, and I'll use the list keyword, which converts everything to a list, and I'll do it with a string that is dis. And so we see list4 is dis as a list. However, if we convert numbers into strings, you see we get a string back. But if we convert a list into a string, so list4, you see that it's taken the list and sort of kept the brackets and everything. And in fact, even if we try with a star, we can see that it still won't like it. And you can see that here the error was that list here is treated as a function rather than an actual list, and you can't use the start operator with that. But if we then go back and we're going to extend our list4 by adding list3, and we see list4 is distill, but list3 remains till. And we can also add to our list, so we can append, which means it adds it onto the end. So I'm gonna append an E, and then a D. So now we can see that list4 is distilled. And then the last method that we can use that sort of finishes off nicely is list4, and then we do a clear. So we're going to clear our list, and so now I can see that list4 is just an empty list. And so now you've learnt 7 list methods, and they're called methods because they're done by the list. So we've got the list and then the function, as opposed to, for example, our len function, where we didn't have this dot. And we've seen how strings are like lists, but not too much alike. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, you've learned something. We haven't created anything this time, but hopefully you will have been able to learn a lot of stuff, even though we haven't got sort of an end program. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you again same time next week. Thank you.